So I have been playing around with this 360 camera for the past couple weeks. I strapped it on the back of my bicycle and captured probably the coolest stuff that I've filmed ever. So I want to talk about my editing process of how I cut this really cool 360 video and why you should start playing around with this and how easy it is. And this is episode 360 of The Edit. Okay, so we're gonna go into our editing software of choice, mine being Premiere Pro, and we're gonna start playing around with this footage right here. Okay, so we're in Premiere Pro right now. The first thing that we're gonna look at is just a couple of the shots selected from this crazy sequence. The first one I'm gonna show you is how to do this crazy like zoom out effect. The second sequence I'm going to show you is how to animate the 360 camera to be able to do like pans and tilts like this. And then the final one, which is probably one of my favorites, is the swiveling camera. So you can achieve a shot that looks like this. I mean, what is this? Just crazy. It's so... The first thing you want to do is create a brand new sequence. Now, I have a download link to this footage in the description below. So if you want to play around with this 360 footage, it is right down there. You can download it off of my Google Drive, kablamo. So the first thing you want to do is once you have your footage into your timeline, it has to look kind of like this weird warpy thing. I mean, look at my head. It's all like split up. Like I look like freaking Medusa's hair. What you want to do, first of all, is to take your shot, bring it into your timeline. The second thing you want to make sure you have, this is also in the description below, is to have the GoPro VR plugin. Now, this is completely for free, and after much study of playing around with virtual reality plugins, this is probably one of the best because A, it's free, you don't need a third-party software, and it goes right into Premiere Pro and translates incredibly well with basically all VR footage. So what you want to do is go in, and what my favorite function is actually GoPro VR reframe. So we're going to drag and drop it in, and immediately it spherizes the whole thing, and now it actually makes it just look like, you know, kind of almost like a regular GoPro shot. So if we look, there's a bunch of different options. There's the field of view, the yawn, the pitch, the roll, and there's this thing called smooth transition. What we're going to play mostly around with is your field of view, yawn, and pitch and roll. So the first thing you're going to see is if you do field of view and we zoom out, it's going to create like that Kendrick Lamar humble style thing, which already, I'm like already blown away. This is like already bananas. The second one is your yawn. Now the yawn is going to change the angle of the camera, so it's going to swivel and pivot, which is also completely bananas. The next one is your pitch, which will tilt up and down, and then finally your roll, which will be able to swivel the camera depending on your perspective. Now for this first shot, we're just going to primarily play around with the field of view. So the best thing about this is you can animate it by using these keyframe options. Now this is where this camera becomes so incredibly awesome, and for me as an editor and also a shooter at heart, I like being able to control the visuals in post-production, not necessarily just assemble them. Now this is a dream come true for someone like me. So once we click this little toggle button here, what we've done is now we've set an animation preset, and what we'll do is we'll just skim forward through the video to the point where I'm basically like fully out of the tunnel. So I'm out of the tunnel, I have these beautiful butterfly wings, and what I'm going to do is scale right out to about 100. So now everything's just like, what? That's crazy. So let's go back and let's see here. I'm going to actually shorten the animation so it happens a little bit quicker. So when we press play on this sequence, this bad boy, this is what's going to happen. It just gets so ridiculously nutty, and it just keeps going and going and going. So with using your field of view section, you're able to really animate it to make it look super crazy. And what we can do is if it already starts a little too warpy and you want to have a bit more of like an impact, we can scale in the field of view so it just looks a little bit more like a GoPro at the beginning, and then obviously when things escalate and zoom out, it gets absolutely nutty. And you know, with this, I mean, you can also play around with a bunch of other animation presets, which I would highly recommend. You know, once it's zoomed out this far, you can obviously play around with the yawn and just go like bananas. And basically what I want to show you with this tutorial is the fact that all of the effects that we are going to achieve are just by experimenting and playing around. So that leads me to my second effect that I'm going to do, which is we're just going to press this guy. We're going to destroy all those keyframe options, and we're now going to try animating the yawn around. So maybe I want to start the video from, let's say, my POV. What we're going to do is select that bad boy there, and we're just going to play it out until we exit the tunnel. And then what we can do is actually swivel the camera right around and now reveal me. So when we actually watch the video, the camera is going to pivot around me as I'm cycling to create this like crazy camera change. And one of the best things about this is you cannot achieve this shot with any other piece of gear. Unless you have like really high-end like robotic cameras, there is no way to be able to achieve this. And I guarantee there's no way to be able to achieve these effects in post-production after the fact that you've shot it other than using 360 gear. So I have a link in the description below for the camera that I shot this on, which is probably the best 360 camera for under $500. It's called the Mi 360, and I'm just absolutely blown away by it. So that's how you can do some animation like swivel arounds, and you can still do the exact same thing with, let's say, the pitch, for instance. So let's say we go into our pitch and we want to actually start from like the wheel of the tire, but it's a little bit too much on an angle, so I'm just going to change the yawn over so it just hits it perfectly. But now it seems a little weird, so we'll just pivot the roll, and maybe it looks a little too like warpy and crazy. So what we'll do is we'll just scale in the field of view. So now I kind of like the looks of that, and what we'll do is, since our pitch is already keyframed, I'll just press play. We'll play it like that, and it's like, you know what, I want to see my sweet face in this. So then we'll just do a slow tilt up to my warped out face here, and kablamo. So now if we press play, what we're going to see is an animated tilt up from the base. So we go something like that. The next effect that I'm going to talk about is actually the duplication effect that I put in this video. And essentially how you can achieve that is not by using the GoPro plugin software. Instead, if you have Adobe Premiere CC in the latest update, what you can do is actually go in and type in VR. And what's going to happen is immersive video is one of the drop-down menus. Drag and drop that into your footage, and you're going to be like, Zach, that did absolutely nothing. What's going on? I'm very upset. Well, the first thing that you're going to do is notice that you have tilt, pan, and roll, and you're gonna have your different axes, so your X, Y, and Z. If you do tilt, it's gonna make this crazy like, what is going on? And I mean, let's just try playing around with it. So let's keyframe the tilt, and then let's skim forward, and we'll swivel this the whole way around to do a 360 degree. And if we press play, what is going to happen here? Oh crap. So I would recommend, you could probably do this in like a acid trip style video, but that's not the one that I'm going to play around with because that's a little too crazy. What I'm actually going to play around with is this like extra cool duplication effect, where basically you're going to go by your pan tool, click that bad boy, and then we'll just skim forward a little bit in the timeline by about like 5 seconds. And what we'll do is we'll actually swivel this over. So my battery's about to die. We'll swivel this over to do almost like a full rotation. And now if we press play, what's going to happen is I'm just going to swivel around the camera like this. Pretty nuts, right? And so what this effect can essentially do is, if you're scaled in a little bit more, you can create like this duplication effect. So it's a really fun style to play around with, and it's something completely crazy and completely new that I have never seen. So overall, what I want to establish in this video is the fact that since it just shoots 360 doesn't mean that it can only achieve virtual reality immersive video. You can also create some really cool effects utilizing the tiny planet effect that the camera immediately automatically does. And so with the Mi Sphere, if you download the app, you can actually do the tiny planet effect while you're shooting, so you can kind of see what you're capturing and how you're capturing it. And I mean, it just looks bananas with basically anything. So if you have a bit of a boring frame, you want to make it look interesting, try the tiny planet effect out. Anyways, thanks again. I know I'm a little bit sick. Hopefully my voice did not bother the crap out of you. Hopefully I'm better in the next video. I'll see you guys next time. Keep making some great stuff. Bye.